All right, this is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. I'm here in Anaheim, California. I was just here for a trade show, not related to gardening, but I always like to visit farms when I'm traveling around. And so today I found a really cool farm that's actually been here 10 years and I didn't even know about it. Maybe you guys haven't known about it either. Actually, it is actually called Riverbed Farm here in Anaheim on actually city property that the farm negotiated with the city for a special deal, which we'll share about in a minute. So they're literally farming on OPL, other people's land or property. And the overall organization that runs this is a non-profit. It's actually called Renewable Farms. You can check them out at renewablefarms.com. They have two farms like this, one here in Anaheim and one here in Aliso Viejo or something like that. Viso, or I don't know, whatever, somewhere down here. And in addition, they will also do consulting with you if you want to have your own aquaponic system as well. And so the really major cool thing about this farm is that they have been here 10 years, right? That's like a testament to itself because most small farms, urban farms don't last. This is next to like a school and just a residential neighborhood, right? And the second most amazing thing about this farm that is unlike any farm I ever visited is that they actually don't sell the produce, which is crazy. How do they farm and not sell produce, and how have they been able to be here 10 years? Well, that's the secret sauce that I want to share with you guys, because maybe many of you guys out there want to like live the farm life and have a farm, but you don't want to have to be, worried about selling produce every week to pay the bills. They've learned a way around this that I believe is ingenious, and I believe more farms should be doing, so that more of you guys out there that really have the dream of owning a farm don't have to sell produce to make a living. So anyways, let's head into Riverbed Farms here in Anaheim and share with you guys how they do it. All right, as you guys can see, when I open the gate that reveals the farm, you guys can see they basically have raised beds that are raised off the ground so they don't have to bend over to work the land. These are actually aquaponics beds, as you'll learn. They have 50 of them. This is like one of the largest aquaponics farms that I've been to. 50 gravel beds. And then if you look over there, they have basically the fish tanks, which are in-ground concrete, all with pond liners. And they got 10 of those fish basically tanks that hold approximately 2,000 gallons. They each have about 200 fish in there. And they have lots of produce growing in their 50 raised beds. They're about, I would guess like maybe about 3 or 4 feet by like 20 feet, like my estimation, okay? And you can also see some picnic tables or benches behind me with a nice shaded area with like shade cloth up and some old school palm trees. Anyways, this is just the entrance. Let me take you guys around. All right, guys, so this is the secret sauce of the farm here. And if you look at this little area, to me, this looks like you could be at like some like amusement park. Like it's a really nice, basically event space area that you could go to. It reminds me of like this place called Frontier Village. If you've known about that, like the eating area where there's like a cafe and all this stuff for like all the people at the park to visit and dine and eat at. That's actually what they have here. This is an event space, guys. They have basically a whole bunch of seating. I think they do up to like 150, maybe 200 people or something like that. They have like a lot of weddings get done here. They have like a event space there for like weddings and like just for hanging out, for other kinds of events and speakers and all these things. They have several bathrooms, which is good. And literally, guys, this is how this farm pays the bills, right? To rent this place out for a day is not cheap. I looked on the website at present time when this is being filled, it's like $4 or $5 grand to rent this space out. I guess in terms of other places, maybe that's not so expensive. And the cool thing about this place is that you could bring in your own caterers. Of course, they'll recommend caterers to you, and probably a lot of videos on Riverbed Farm here on YouTube is about the event space, not about the farm, which is what I will be concentrating on in this video. That being said, for those of you guys that want to own a farm, right, think about like multiple uses of your farm besides just the produce, right? This is an amazing way to create an income, have a nice event space at a farm, and you could get married at a farm, or you could have your event at a farm, right? You could also use, of course, your event space to hold workshops and things. And actually they do use their event space to hold workshops where they give free workshops on aquaponics, as well as container gardening and other kinds of, you know, agriculture related workshops. So I think this is amazing that they are doing educational work. Of course, they have a lot of school trips. I mean, there's a school right around the other side of the fence that they have kids come in and they could educate kids about aquaponics, about where food comes from, because most food, unfortunately, is coming from grocery stores and even worse, fast food joints these days. And they also get to reach out with community involvement by basically donating all the food they grow, right? It's not sold, it is donated to the city, which then distributes it to people that are, you know, elderly, on food stamps, needy, homeless people. Basically, people in need get the high quality food here. And I think that is a great thing to do, because unfortunately, most people that need food get all these donated canned and boxed and processed foods and peanut butter and all these things from the USDA, which in my opinion are really not that healthy. So I'm glad that the city of Anaheim is thinking ahead and serving their community by allowing, you know, some property here to be used by farm to donate all the food back, right, to help the community out, make a better community, but also allow the farm to rent out space to bring in money so that the city can give fresh food to the local community, right? Just a couple weeks ago, they donated over, I think, 150 pounds of food. And, you know, and this is the winter time. In the summertime, they could donate, I mean, they could have 100 pounds of just cherry tomatoes alone some weeks, right? Because it's quite productive. They could produce, you know, several hundred pounds and donate that to the city, you know, quite often, so that the city can literally use this for people in need. So I think this is an amazing way to keep like a non-profit farm funded by doing good work for the people, to do educational work, to bring in workshops, but also, you know, with an event space that charges pretty good money to bring in money to keep this farm going. And the other thing is, you know, unlike a lot of places where you might use event space, you got to use arcader or this or that. With this place, you could use, you know, anybody you would like to do all the food, or even do the food yourself. Like if you try to rent out event space at a hotel, for example, or even convention center, like, you got to use our people, which in my opinion is all a racket. Plus, to me, this is a very nice event space, you know, and I would not hesitate to have some kind of event here, because it's just really, really nice decor. Plus you got the water running in the background from the aquaponic system. And of course, during your event, right, they will give you guys and the people tours of the farm. So if you guys want to go on a tour of this farm yourself, you can sign up for their regular tours at renewablefarms.com. Of course, if you live in the area and you want to get some outside time and work on a farm, they do accept volunteers that you can also sign up for online as well. If you want to book the event space, you can also do that online as well. If you want to learn about their workshops, you can learn about their workshops on their website as well. So yeah, definitely check out their website. Oh, and the final thing I'll say is that if you guys want to donate to a good cause, this non-profit farm that is tax deductible, right, you can make a donation to the farm anywhere from $25 on up, because they still need a lot of infrastructure here, because they're literally operating with like a crew of 2. And otherwise they use interns and volunteers to get everything done on this farm, which I think is just amazing that they're literally doing this on a shoestring budget. And here's the secret: if you want to get some of the food from the farm and eggs, right, the only way you could do that is to actually donate. So if you make a donation of $25 or more, they'll give you like a basket of some of the eggs and food, and also give you guys a personal tour and other kind of amenities depending on the amount that you donate. Maybe you can get a private tour and all these other things. Anyways, links down below to renewablefarms.com to learn more about your donation opportunities, as well as renting out this event space. In any case, let's go ahead and give you guys a tour of this amazing farm here in Anaheim. All right, guys, so to me, this is a very well done farm, because once again, after all, their #1 primary goal is to have event space that looks amazing and have a farm that is to the next level. I mean, a lot of farms I go to, you know, they don't have wood chips on the pathways. they're not as like manicured or as nice as they could be, because I understand, you know, people are busy working on the farm. One of the main goals at this farm is to have the place look tip-top for the attendees that, you know, that are going to be at the event space when there are events here, such as weddings and whatnot. So this whole place is using really nice wood chips that are probably sourced from the city yard, which is right behind, because I just saw tree trimmer trucks come in with chips. So they dump them all out. In addition, you guys can see they have all the, you know, in-ground fish tanks here that I will talk about in a little bit. But then also along this side, they basically have all planted out in, you know, edible herbs, as well as fruit trees, as well as other ornamental plants. So you guys can't see, but right here, here's the leaves. This is a chirimoya tree. They got a banana. They got like citrus. There's a lemon. They have apples and peaches, other citrus. They even got jujube. I saw they have mango and let's see, avocado. Lots of trees along here. And then they got like a little bathroom over there. There's another bathroom here. There's a couple bathrooms on property, which is good for when they have large events. They have a storage shed. All right, so I want to take you guys down there and show you guys what they're growing along the fence line, because if you live in Southern California, this is what you need to be growing on your fence line, especially if it's a hurricane fence, to grow lots of food. All right, guys, so you guys can see basically the whole fence line. Down the whole fence, they got this growing. For those of you guys that don't know what this is passion fruit vine. And you guys can see they got basically ripe passion fruits. There's one here. There's one over here. This is actually ready to be harvested. I mean, this is one incredible use of the, you know, the hurricane fencing, just growing the passion fruit that just readily grows up. It likes to grow up it actually, and then produces lots of food. They basically donate buckets of these passion fruits when they do make donations to the city of Anaheim for the people in need. Of course, they have lots of citrus here on one side of me and other ornamental plants as well. Next up, what I want to do is we want to go ahead and cover the aquaponic system and how they literally grow this whole farm using sustainable aquaponics that conserves more water than traditional land agriculture. All right, guys, so now we're sitting on one of the tanks, or the fish tanks, or the swimming pools here that are basically made out of concrete. They're dug into the ground, so they go deeper, so that kind of helps keep the temperature more stable, because we are here in Southern California. They don't need to heat or cool the fish because they mostly got koi fish, and of course they also have a pond liner that actually lasts pretty long. And besides the koi fish that they have primarily, they also have a few catfish actually at the bottom. The catfish are the filter feeders that eat all the algae and everything that sinks to the bottom, because if things sink to the bottom, the koi fish won't really want it. The koi are kind of underneath, but as soon as they find out I got something for them and something hits the top like that, you guys can see they're all coming up. They're having a feeding frenzy here, feeding them for the camera so you guys can see all the amazing koi fish in here. So yeah, they have like maybe 200 koi fish per tank that then feeds the water to approximately 5 beds per one big tank. This is a massive system they got going here. So yeah, basically what happens here is the fish eat the food that I just fed them, right? And the interesting thing at this farm is that unlike other farms that may add additional, you know, iron or other minerals to the tanks, right, to make sure that the water has all the nutrients for the plants, they basically just feed the fish food, the fish poop out, right, the poop, which is basically fertilizer, nitrogen for the plants with other nutrients, and then they pump it out to the plants. All the plants look pretty healthy here, but should the plants have some deficiencies, then instead of adding something to the water that then can negatively affect the fish, they then do foliar feeding on the plants of things like, you know, kelp, things like different trace minerals and whatnot. So, you know, they'll basically, you know, foliar feed as needed, which I think is actually a pretty wise way to do things. All right, guys, so most aquaponics farms I've been to are like in a greenhouse or something like this. I mean, this aquaponics farm is huge. Basically, they got these flood tables. I mean, for lack of a better word, they're made out of wood with the pond liner. And they got like 10 beds all the way down. So once again, each one of the tanks feed 5 of the beds. The pumps just came on a little while ago. I was hearing them run, but they have lots of food growing. And of course, I am here in March, so they have their winter crops in right now and some leftover crops that are living year-round, like the basil lives year-round in SoCal. They have some peppers that are kind of hanging on, and hopefully will start regrowing here in the springtime once it warms up a little bit. But they have mostly like leafy greens this time of year, and I'm going to take you guys around to share with you guys more about how these flood tables work, how they basically filter the water so that when they drain out, cleaner water goes back into the aquaponics tank so that they don't have to have any filtration. They have 0 filtration in this aquaponic system, unlike other systems I've been to where they have some kind of rudimentary filters. There's no filtration in this. This is just like old school aquaponics. I'm sure there's ways you could do it better, but to me, the joy in seeing this system is that how simple it really is. So anyways, let's go ahead and check out the anatomy of these raised beds. All right, guys, so this is the anatomy of a raised bed. We're here at one end, about 4 feet wide, 16 feet long. These are no joke, guys. They got basically mixed with all different kinds of edible flowers, vegetables, and herbs. At one end, they have basically the inlet pipe that brings the water in from the tanks. And like the only filter they have here is like this, right? Check it out. This is basically just a kitchen strainer sieve you would use. This looks like a heavy duty one from the restaurant supply store. And they basically catch any grit that kind of goes through, right? And they have to clean these out every once in a while. This is the only filter they have. Otherwise, the water then drains down into the bed, and what happens in the bed, the first 4 inches of the bed have like big river stones, right? And then the top of the bed, which is about another foot, has these small little kind of pebbles, which is basically the grow medium. This is a soilless kind of system that things basically just, the plants take root in the little pebble things, and then the water drains down. They have it set up with different holes so that, like, you know, pretty much the water stays at the top level for maybe 15 minutes to 30 minutes if it's like more clogged up, if some roots get in there, but the water will eventually drain down so that all these plants get enough water, but they're not getting flooded with water. And as you guys can see, it is working great. This time of year, the nasturtiums are really doing well. And, you know, the nasturtiums in like India, for example, are called Indian Cress. Link down below to my video where I have a dedicated video on Indian Cress and how beneficial of a crop it is, not just for the amazing, beautiful edible flowers, but also for these little leaves, which are completely edible. And the cool thing at this farm is that unlike other farms, they got to worry about like, hey, we're growing crops to sell, right? They don't have to grow crops to sell, so they don't have to like grow things so that like people will like buy it, because most people are not going to buy nasturtium leaves. But at this farm, when they harvest the nasturtium, they just basically cut the whole vine and put that in with a food donation. And check it out, this is the cool thing. When people that are needy, that literally don't have money or have limited income to get fresh food, and they live in a food desert, maybe like some parts of Anaheim, aren't able to get to buy fresh food, and then they have fresh food, let me tell you guys, they're not picky. They're gonna find out what this is, they're gonna try a little bit. Oh, this kind of tastes spicy. Maybe like some peppers or something like that. I mean, this has anti-cancer properties. And they'll learn ways, if you cook this down or steam it, it's like steaming some collard greens, and you just flavor it up and eat them. And this is fresh chlorophyll, fresh locally grown nutrition that then they will then eat. So, you know, they'll send lots of different produce items, a lot of sorrel, lemon sorrel that you'll learn about in a minute. And people will eat these things because, you know, that's the best fresh food they got. And when you're hungry, guess what? You ain't that picky. Of course, there's other things growing, such as Swiss chard, And of course, the #1 green they're growing this time of year is the lemon sorrel. So let's go ahead and give you guys a close-up on the lemon sorrel. All right, so I got distracted here by the farm cat. This farm cat lives on property, so should you be visiting the farm or should you be renting the space out for an event, the farm kitty will be on site. He is quite, or she is quite friendly, and she does a good job of getting all the little varmin around the farm. And yeah, she just tries to come up next to you and bump you and get some free love. She's a nice, or he is a nice fatty catty, really friendly. We love kitties. Hey, kitty, kitty. Oh, so nice. Oh, the little wee kitty, kitty. So one of the things I think that is the super coolest thing about this farm is that, like, you know, they don't have to like be worried about what am I gonna grow that's gonna sell so I can sell it to make money, right? At this farm, they just grow what grows well in this area that is gonna look good, more importantly, for the people that are renting the event space, because they want this place to look amazing for people that are renting the event space to have their one-in-a-lifetime, hopefully, wedding or other special events. So they always try to have the beds planted out with a wide variety of different produce items. Every bed just doesn't have all radishes or all lettuces. These are all mixed beds, and of course, depending on the time of year you come here, it's gonna have a lot of different things planted. Whether they do things from direct seed, whether they grow things from little transplants that they have set up over there, or whether they have things that are more perennial, like they got some bananas in some of these, and other crops that may come back from the roots every year, whether they're growing radishes or onions or kales or lettuces, right? Onions, they're all growing a variety of things, and all these beds look amazing. They're just really well manicured and taken care of. I mean, that's another thing. This farm is more about appearance, right? On one level, because it has to look good for people that are coming in. I don't see any like brown leaves or dead plants. They all get pulled out. Everything's looking amazing, but you know, here's the thing. The best plant that they got is the lemon sorrel. So the sorrel, or the French sorrel, tastes kind of lemony, and there's like one here, one here, one here. They're literally all over the place. I think this bed has like 10 of them. Some beds have like 1 or 2, but especially this time of year, it's one of their mainstays, right? I mean, I visited farms in Chicago and places in the Midwest, and they actually also plant the sorrel because they find that it's one of the first crops to emerge as the weather gets warmer, right? Do not discount the power of the sorrel, how nutritious it is, and how much it grows quickly and can thrive and, you know, also look amazing. They find the lemon sorrel grows a lot better than the red vein sorrel, which is actually my favorite because it's more decorative. So let me show you guys a red vein sorrel they also have growing here that looks to me to be growing great, although they say it doesn't like the heat so much of the summer, whereas the lemon sorrel is a lot more resilient. All right, guys, so this is the red vein sorrel. I mean, to me, this looks like it's growing amazing. So the red veins here, they got the standard sorrel here. They got some sweet alyssum, which are technically edible flowers, but also really good for pollinators. I think everybody should be growing this stuff. They have a cool, well, they're not growing it, but they have a cool purple variety of the alyssum that I grow myself. They also have edible flowers like bachelor buttons and borage. Of course, here we have curly kale. Here we have radishes. Oh, actually, here's the borage right here. They have, you know, some lettuces there. So, I mean, it's really cool to see the diversity of different crops they're growing here. You could grow a lot here in Southern California, and I would actually encourage the farm, especially in the summertime when maybe they do a lot of tomatoes and other warm season crops. They probably don't have a whole ton of greens. I would encourage them to look into some Asian greens, such as water spinach, if they're able to grow that, aka kangkong, things like Malabar spinach, things like Egyptian spinach, and more importantly, a plant known as longevity spinach or Okinawan spinach, both gyneras that I think would really thrive in this system, that would just continually grow and provide lots of food, also look really pretty. All right, so if you guys live in Southern California, you guys should definitely be growing this plant. This is a basil. Let me see what kind of basil. It's not a standard Italian basil. It's a unique kind of basil. Oh, it's a Thai basil. they're most frost tolerant, you know, because they'll last the longest in my garden that does get to freeze. But here, this Thai basil is doing amazing. It's basically March and it has grown through the winter time. Nice, you know, thick trunk on it. I could definitely tell it's been here a while. But do not underestimate the power of basil. It's amazing. One of my favorite ways to use a basil is to basically chop the flowers off, vacuum blend it with watermelon, strain it out, and have an amazing juice. Links down below in my video on how I like to process all my basil toppings when I deadhead. All right, guys, this is something I never thought I would see. It's actually bananas growing in an aquaponic system, right? I mean, I do know that bananas love water. They don't like going too dry. They were really wet, but they also like lots of nutrition, lots of fertilizer. So I guess, you know, the fish poop really gives these bananas nice fertilizer. You know, I am told that these are producing bananas. For me personally, I'm trying to have like more of a whole bed of bananas than just like a few pups coming up, to have it down the middle actually, and then on both sides that have like greens growing on both sides. I think this would be amazing. I personally do think that they could pack in more plants into their beds here. Some of them are looking a little bit sparse personally, but you know, overall this place is amazing. Lots of different mustard greens, radishes, all kinds of different crops growing, including bananas in aquaponics. All right, so while it is the winter time here in SoCal, they also have things like the flat leaves chives, or I would call them Chinese chives, one of my favorite chives to grow. Of course, they also have things like the collard greens and cabbages and kales and other brassica style plants. I am seeing some aphids on here, and that's one of the things I want to point out. You know, because they have the fish, they don't spray any kind of chemicals on these plants. And what they do spray, the main things I heard was the BT, which basically as soon as the sun contacts the BT, it's kind of like, it's no longer active. And they also have a special beneficial fungus, or basically this fungus that'll basically attack soft-bodied insects such as aphids and other ones. You know, we'll get out to more organic gardeners, especially because this basically will break down quickly. That's something they have to really pay attention to, guys, when they spray the crops. They got to make sure that whatever they spray on the crops does not get into their flood table bed, their flood beds, and then actually go back into the fish and then end up hurting the fish. One of the cool things here at the farm is that they don't always have to be concerned about production. Like a lot of farms just want to grow crops that can be grown. And once plants go to bolt or go to flower, right, most farms would cut these things out, right? Here, because once again, they're not concerned about, you know, selling crops to make money. Their event space does all that. They can allow plants like the radishes, like the daikon radishes, that normally are cut out, because now once they go to flower and set these pods, the roots basically get all hard and weird, and you wouldn't want to eat them. But you know, here what they'll do is they'll basically cut off these little pods, and they'll send these as food donations, you know, for the city of Anaheim. And then, you know, people can end up just eating these, which are actually delicious. They're kind of like eating snap peas when they're young. You definitely don't want to harvest them when they're old, right? But the cool thing is, if they do get old and they don't harvest them when they're young, then they basically will save these seeds. They basically take the seeds and then just like spread out the seeds and throw them around so that they can grow more of their crops from their homegrown seed. Of course, here's like a nice red lettuce growing. Here's another lettuce, I forget. This is from Harris Seeds, organic pelletized seed. They had a very low germination rate on, but they got a good price on. But it's looking amazing. They got the bachelor buttons here. Here's some basically bolting arugula. And I want to encourage you guys, you know, when your arugula goes to bolt, I want you guys to eat the flowers. To me, they taste like barbecue sauce. Like, I don't know, they're sweet yet spicy at the same time. So I'm so glad that they get to let plants go through all the different life cycles, provided they're not diseased, so they could collect seeds, save seeds, send out the edible flowers, because all vegetable flowers are edible, as well as radish seed pods and other, you know, foods that they're growing here. Because once again, man, when you're not constrained by having to sell crops, you can have a lot more fun in the garden, in my opinion. All right, guys, so this is one of their tables that gets watered from the Aquaponics, and they basically have a shade cloth set up over this with some hoops so they can have a little bit more shade, because this is where they basically start a lot of their seedlings in little seedling trays in like a nice, well-draining mixture, right? They found that because they're growing in basically the gravel method, these plants get soaked with a high amount of water, and especially when things are seedlings, right? They need to be able to, deal with the water and drain really fast. So they've had to come up with their own unique soil blend that does not hang on to water, that drains relatively easily. They do end up watering these beds. They get watered 3 times a day here in the winter time, and in the summer they crank it up to 4 times a day. So they have a lot of plant starts here that they grow themselves, and then of course they'll also direct seed things such as radishes, for example. And when there are volunteers that come in, they'll have volunteers plant. Sometimes volunteers don't follow the instructions exactly and then seed things too closely. But that's all right, because once again, they're not growing this farm for production and for food. While they do harvest from it for sure, right? That's not the main goal. The main goal is, once again, to have this farm look beautiful for people that rent out the event space. And currently, we are here in March, they're already sold out for June and July. And generally they just rent 1 day a week. Saturdays is the main day they end out renting their event space, and just that alone pays for this farm to run. Of course, they have they run a tight ship with very low amount of staff. They're only here 3 days a week, which you can check out on their website and maybe even drop in to walk around on a self-guided tour of the farm. Now, the other thing I want to say is that there is a local farm in Long Beach called Circa Cultivation that I believe this farm should get in touch with, because this farm is a non-profit. Circa Cultivation grows in excess of seedlings, right? That they don't end up selling, that they end up donating to non-profits, and those seedlings in little coconut plugs would do perfect in these beds, and they'd be able to fill up more of these beds with literally free seedlings that Circa could donate, that then they could take a tax write-off, that this farm could then look more beautiful, so that they'll even be more sold out than they already are, plus have more food growing that they could then end up donating to the city and people in need. All right, guys, so a farm would not be a farm without some wildlife. So they have basically a duck and a bunch of chickens, and from what I'm told, these are rescue animals. So sometimes when people get ducks or chickens to keep on their property, they're cute as little chicks, but when they grow up, they can't take care of them. So then they basically were donated here, and then they basically built an enclosure for them. They get to feed them the vegetable scraps that would otherwise be not eaten, and then they get to have eggs that are then produced that then once again do not get sold but get donated to people in need to the city. So I think this is an amazing use of the space. They also have some fruit trees like a fig tree and, like I said, an avocado tree like growing up and around this. So let me tell you guys, the fruit trees that are growing above the chicken pen are doing quite well, because guess what? All the chickens makes the fertilizer for the trees that are growing right above them. So I'm glad they are taking care of some chickens that are rescue chickens, once again not sold for meat, and the eggs are actually given away to people in need as well. All right, guys, so one of the fruit trees that is now in production, we're here in like early March basically, is the Loquat. The Loquat is one of the first fruit trees to come in production. Of course, the Loquat is an evergreen tree often used in landscaping. I believe this is a named variety of Loquats. They're actually nice and long. And once again, this food is not sold. It's basically harvested when ripe and then donated if birds and other local animals like chipmunks or whatever, squirrels, don't get them. And let me tell you guys, this Loquat tree is loaded up. All right, guys, so now I'm gonna show you guys the right way to do a tumbling composter. As you guys can see, they built this structure here, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be used, in my opinion, at this time. But these are basically whiskey or wine barrels that they basically put on a big structure that are basically compost tumblers. We can spin this around, and as you guys can see, they got a little hatch here that you can open up. And you guys can see all the compost in there. Looks like they have a lot of dry material, but they need some more wet stuff, and it's not super active. And once you got everything in there, you could basically just spin it. They should actually have some kind of handles so you can like grip it better. But you can spin it around, man. This is the way to do a compost tumbler, not like the stupid ones made out of the plastic, and a lot of people put them upright, way too heavy. I really love this system and actually hope they start using it again to make compost, because it has lots of potential. They do have holes drilled in it for aeration. I would likely probably drill more holes in the side for additional aeration. But yeah, this is one of the amazing things they have done here. And you know, this farm is really cool. They have a lot of different areas, a lot of different things to see, and it actually is one of the nicest farms I've been to, because once again, this farm is not just about growing food, but it's about having an event space that is beautiful for the people that rent out the space, and I think they've done a great job at that. All right, guys, so the sun is basically going down. I got to give you guys a really nice tour and explanation of how this farm works, and you guys can see behind me all the tanks with all the fish there, and then over on this side, all the amazing raised beds they have full of produce. At the very end there, that's where they have the chickens and all the landscaping, the nice landscaping around the borders and fences of the property. And we are ended up once again here in the venue space. And you know, once again, you know, I visited a lot of farms, especially that are non-profits, because people are into farming, right? They want to farm. One way is to do it for profit. Of course, another way is to do it a non-profit. I visited farms that write, you know, grants and get grants basically to fund their farm, which is definitely one way to do it. Writing grants is its own skill in itself. And I visited farms that have to hire special people to write the grants to get more grants, and then they got to hire more people to get more grants to keep the grant thing rolling and keep it going. And then it seems like the farm is kind of getting away from growing food and getting food out to the community. Instead, they're just focusing on like keeping a nice staff to keep writing grants so they can get all this money that then really is not ending up growing food and not ending up benefiting the community. I want to commend the city of Anaheim here that really is using this formerly like city lot that was storing pipes and you know, probably equipment, turned it into a farm, made it good for the community so that the community could get back organic food to people in need, and also have an amazing event space for people living in the community to celebrate you know, weddings, birthdays, and other events here in a beautiful farm. So I hope more cities will adopt this you know, way to, you know, utilize their space in the best ways possible to grow more local food, to feed more people in need, and to be able to create more farmers in the country that are able to do it without having the worry of production and producing food to sell for money, so that they could do what they love, live in touch with the land, grow food, and literally feed the community and build a healthier America, one person at a time. So if you guys want to learn more about the Riverbed Farm here, you want to visit sustainablefarms.com. Link is down below if you guys want to sign up to be a volunteer, whether you guys want to book this space for an event, whether you want to have the owner, Aaron, who I did not get to meet, you know, do some consulting work or start your own aquaponics setup at your place here in Southern California, or even come for a tour, or more importantly, donate to this nonprofit. So that's the only way you could get some food grown here on the farm, and even come for a personal private tour and get some other benefits. Once again, link is down below. So I want to thank the farm here and the time they spent with me today to go over everything so I could share with you and educate you guys about a new way of farming that you don't have to depend on growing produce to make a living. You could have an amazing event space and even do more agritourism, you know, things to create an income so that you could farm without having to worry about growing and selling produce. So if you guys enjoyed this episode today, hey, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Also be sure to share this around in agriculture schools with people that are going to be graduating so that they could learn of different ways of being able to farm without having to be dependent on growing food, and having agritourism as one component, and maybe even getting some land donated by private individuals, nonprofits, or even cities to duplicate the model they're doing here, which I think is an amazing model, and I hope there are more of these in the future. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes. I'll be coming out every 5 to 7 days. You don't know what new farms, what new growing practices you'll be learning, or what new knowledge bombs I'll be sharing with you guys from my own backyard, where I have my own urban garden in the great city of Las Vegas, Nevada. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as many videos come out. And finally, be sure to check past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 17 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to you guys all about how to grow your own food, as well as visiting many farms around our great country to get you inspired to maybe start your own farm one day. So with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing. This is the bye-bye kitty shot. Bye-bye kitty shot. You're right, good.